Welcome back, guys. On this video today, we're going to take a look at the ratios and the proportionality. This particular information we usually learn it on grade 8 and grade 9, but here on grade 12 it is very important to understand it, because without this information you won't be able to understand anything, including Euclidean geometry for grade 12. Because for Euclidean geometry for grade 12 we're going to talk about the proportionality theorem, and it also involves the ratios and the proportionality. So this particular information, as I said, that we learn it on grade 8 and grade 9. So here we're just going to do a recap of it. Like, I'm just going to remind you what are the ratios and proportionality. So quickly, without wasting more of your data, let me just get into the point and just explain absolutely everything about this kind of stuff. What are ratios? Ratios, guys, what I want you to understand about ratios, guys, it is very, very simple. This particular word of a ratio, it must not confuse you when they talk about the ratio. The ratio, guys, is about the comparison of two things. So in mathematics, we describe it as the relationship between two measurements of the same kind using the same unit. And also the ratios, guys, it allows us to make the comparison of the same type of the quantity, and it has no unit. The reason why it doesn't have units is just because if it compares something that have the same unit, it won't have a unit, because those kinds of units are going to cancel each other out. Let me just illustrate this. If we compare a 10 centimeter ruler and also 30 centimeter ruler, I'm just giving an example. If we want the ratio of this particular thing, then of 10 is to 20, we can say if we want to write this particular ratio, remember the ratio can also be written in a fraction form. So if we want to write this in a fraction form, then 10 is to 30 centimeter. This centimeter is going to cancel this centimeter. That's why they say when you calculate the ratio, it doesn't have units. So in other words, guys, the ratios, in other words, it compares the quantities that are measured in the same unit. You see this particular quantities, they have the same unit. So the ratios, it allows you to compare the quantities that they have the same unit. So let me just give you a practical example so that you can be able to understand what I'm. Suppose that there's 30 people, 30 people in a classroom. In a classroom, and 10 of them are boys, and then 20 of them are girls. So we can compare the number of boys and the number of girls. Because why do we compare these two? Because those two things have the same unit. They are all people. They just have the different genders. So they all have the same unit, because they are people. So we can compare the number of boys and also the number of girls in the class. So we can say that we can compare the number of boys in the class and also the number of girls in the class. So we know that the number of boys in the class are 10, and also the number of girls in the class is 20. So we can simplify this ratio. Oh, before, let me illustrate this so that you can be able to understand also. We can also write this as boys to girls. Whenever you see the fraction like this, guys, this also represents the ratios. Or you can also say it as 10 is to 20. So you can see this particular ratio. It is a ratio, but this particular ratio is not simplified. So let's simplify this particular ratio. How can we simplify it? Simply, you don't have to find the highest common factor. You just have to take a calculator and just say 10 divided by 20. You know something here? It is very, very important to match this, because here we need the ratio of boys to girls. So if we need the ratio of girls to boys, we're going to start with 20 and 10. So from here on, we're just going to take 10 divided by 20, and we're going to get half. So our ratio here is 1:2. And also can also write this as 1:2. This is the same thing, guys. This is the same thing about the ratio. You just have to write it in a different form. So I want you to pay close attention to something here, because this is very, very simple, but it's a little bit tricky for some other people. So it doesn't mean that in your classroom you have 3 people. It doesn't mean that in your classroom there's only one boy, as I illustrated here. It doesn't mean that in your classroom you have one boy and also you have 2 boys. No. Also you have 2 girls. No. Why? This rather, it means that to every one boy that is on the class, on those 30 people, to every one boy in the class, there is 2 girls. So this is just this is just a relationship. As I say here, it's a relationship between 2 measurements. So this is the relationship between what the girls, and also between the boys, and also between the girls that are on the class. So the basics, or the main thing that I want you to understand about the ratio, is just that it compares something to something, as long as something it has the same unit. So quickly, let me just try to give you an example